The scariest part of this is I am so committed to authenticity and vulnerability right now, even as I'm still figuring out self love. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Journeys with Jenny. This is a new project. This is born out of doing the Artist Way. If anyone is familiar, the Artist Way is a workbook for blocked creatives or anyone who's creative or anyone who might feel a little bit blocked. And a lot of us don't even know we're blocked or we just don't think we're creative people. And I have felt that way most of my life, especially right now. My partner is a sculpture artist. His work is very visual. It's there, it's big, it's an obvious you are an artist with like a big sign, right? And so where do I fit in? Today's chapter was kind of looking back on the projects that got nixed. And there's definitely something to be said for that. Back in college, my first blog that I ever started was called Finding the Femme, and I was president of Students for Gender Equality at the time. And I thought that was really cool. I was fascinated by gender and sexuality and the norms and everything I was coming out of from the evangelical church and the intensity of that. And then figuring out where you are, figuring out the power of femininity. But where does that belong with freedom? And so the whole blog was called Finding the Femme. I loved the name. It did not last long, probably only a couple of posts out there. I think it's still out there. I don't even remember what platform it was on, but this was college era. And yet it was fun. It was exploratory. Well, my mom had stumbled upon that blog post and she took me out for lunch, a very intentional, very serious lunch, and asked me to stop writing. And she was deeply uncomfortable with the things I was sharing and the way I was sharing it and where this trajectory was going. And I stopped. I shut that blog down and I didn't write anymore on that topic. And it's a bummer. It's a real bummer. And yet I had so much respect for her and confusion. And should I be doing this? And maybe she's right. And I really wish at that time I could have talked with someone who's maybe done an autobiography and had to talk about all the people in their life and how did people respond to that. But I didn't have anyone to bounce those ideas off of. And so, I shut down and I wanted to respect her and her feelings. And so that blog got nixed. Later on, it was after college and right before China, I started my second blog. And I actually did this with a friend. Her name's Autumn, an incredible writer, very vibrant person, very free. Also came out of a religious upbringing, but was living her life. And we created a blog called Searching Sophia's Pockets, another name I am so proud of, Searching Sophia's Pockets. This idea of Sophia being the goddess of wisdom, going into wisdom's pockets, seeing what's there, these little pockets of wisdom. And I loved the name. And we co authored that blog for quite some time. And very unfortunately, I was the one who dropped off. I was living in China. And as the years went by, I think we were running that blog together for about 2 years. But when we first started, I was finding my tone of voice. I was figuring out who I was. I was talking about spirituality and these bigger truths that are behind everything. And it was such a special time and it was such a special outlet to have. And I look back and it's something I'm really proud of. It's also something that I can laugh about. I was very PC. Nothing I said would have upset anyone. I think I had gotten burned from the last one of Finding the Femme, like, don't talk about dangerous topics. And so I found myself in this one staying with very safe topics, but still loving my writing and loving the heart in it. And so I can look back and have so much grace and so much love for that version of me. Then during COVID, I felt just like this lightning bolt of inspiration. And I got on Facebook, I got on Instagram, and I started writing these posts called Hi, I'm Jenny. And the Hi, I'm Jenny posts were just very vulnerable, very raw, very authentic, and very focused again on what I was learning spiritually. I was learning about Christian mysticism. I was learning about experiencing God in new ways. I was learning about seeing God as a lover and not as like this angry father figure. I was learning about yoga. I was learning the Yoga Sutras. I was learning meditation and silence and contemplative prayer and sitting and going deeper. And I just fell in love with it. And these posts just like came out of me in these big inspired spurts. And it didn't matter what anyone said at that time because it felt so true and so real to who I was. And fast forward a couple of months of doing that, not even very long, and very, very negative feedback from someone that I loved very much in my life. They thought I was losing it spiritually. I was leading people astray with my thoughts. And I shut down again. I shut down. I stopped writing. It would come out in maybe little tiny bits and spurts here and there. But for the most part, I just felt that silence was safer. And I went through a time in my life where I really lost community. I got very judged by people that I loved deeply. And how do you not listen to those voices, right? And trying to take in wisdom. Well, wisdom says maybe you are off. In the same way when you fall in love with someone, but all of your friends are like, we don't know about this guy, and maybe you should listen to them because maybe your brain's not working right. I was trying to be so open to that. But because I was so open, I absolutely lost all sense of a compass and self trust. That being said, I'm embarrassed by it. I'm sad. And in all full, authentic honesty, I am not through it yet. I'm still figuring out self love and self expression and being everything I am and everything I'm called to be, and the freedom to figure that out, and the freedom to try new things, and the freedom of actually believing that God could be my co pilot in all of this and my co creator rather than this one restricted path that I've gotten wrong somehow. And so this is the journey. So, welcome to Journeys with Jenni. Am I sold on the name? I don't know, but this is what we're working with right now. And I think I like the name because it isn't a lightning bolt. I've struggled for quite a few hours trying to figure out what to name this new baby project of inspiration. And maybe that's where the humor is, that I can't land on the perfect title. And that's part of the joke right now, is that nothing's perfect. And I want to put it out there anyway. So here we are, Journeys with Jenni. There's going to be interviews. There's going to be me talking like how I am doing right now on just what am I figuring out? What am I going through? The scariest part of this is I am so committed to authenticity and vulnerability right now, even as I'm still figuring out self love. And that is a very dangerous place to be, because if I have not figured out self love, and here I am putting my entire soul bared on the table for everyone to see and comment on, and whatever that may be, or sometimes even worse, if no one watches it and there's no feedback, and that can suck your soul in a different way when you try to do something new and creative and put yourself out there, and there's either nothing or there's negativity. And so this journey on authenticity and vulnerability and throwing it out there and not knowing what I'm getting back while I'm working on the self-love, while I'm learning to be okay if there is no response, be okay if there's negativity, be okay. And this is a super hard one for me, being okay, being misunderstood. That someone can listen to everything I put on the table that comes from the very, very core of my being and see it through their own lens, and to be misconstrued, honestly, might be worse than the other ones. These are small risks, guys. I know that. I know getting on camera and starting a thing that maybe no one will ever see isn't a big risk in comparison to big risks out there. But this one's important to me. And that's why I'm doing it, because I am blocked, creatively speaking. I've seen these short bursts of inspiration in writing and the blogs I talked about, in love and theater and expression, in dancing and singing around my room and whatever it may be. And right now, it may be just getting older. It may be from getting burned. It may be from just really difficult situations the last few years. But it's much more of a struggle now to find that expansiveness. And that is what I'm on the search for. And if you would like to join me on this journey, please feel free. I have no idea where this is going to lead or what's going to come out. I have some ideas. I know topics I want to talk about and where it might go. But I guess if anyone does wanna join the journey, it's for people who also feel like maybe they've lost something and we're trying to recover it, we're trying to find it. And under that loss is this absolute determination to not give up, that it's out there, this faith that it's out there, that this sense of well-being, this sense of self-trust, this sense of your feet planted on a firm rock and knowing exactly who you are and where you are and what you're supposed to be doing. And even if those things aren't true, that your feet are still planted on a rock and you're okay with where you are at. And there's a sense of wonder and a sense of adventure and a sense of possibility and being so present in that moment and so alive and so okay. And that's what this journey is, knowing that I've had those moments before, knowing that I want them again, knowing that there's little flashes of them still out there, and how can that become a way of being? Is it possible? Are we allowed? Is that even possible to be allowed to live in that kind of state of being where things come, but we are unshakable in that sense? And so that's a piece of this journey as well. So, as esoteric and as self indulging as this may be, if you're here, thank you for listening. And I'm excited to see where this goes. All right. Much love to all.